let us move on to the short answer type questions. For the short answer type questions, you will have to write the answers in 2-3 sentences. Now from the French Revolution chapter, the first short answer type question is, what was the lettre de cachet, or why was pre-revolutionary France called as the political prison? Answer, you will write that during 17th and 18th centuries, the will of the French monarchs had become virtually the law of the land. Any criticism of the government by a person led to his imprisonment without any trial with the help of a royal writ, W-R-I-T, royal writ, known as lettre de cachet. It happened during mostly the rule of the King Louis XV. Officials have become corrupted, demanding bribes for the exemption of someone from being arrested and imprisoned with the help of this royal writ. So, George Lefebvre called France the political prison. Second question, what was the tennis court oath? You will write the answer on 20th June 1789, the members of the Third Estate went to the assembly to take part in the discussions regarding voting system, but they found the doors to the assembly locked, so they went to the nearby tennis court and took the oath never to be separated until the constitution was formed. This incident came to be known as the tennis court oath. Third question, how did the fall of Bastille influence the feeling of liberty in other parts of Europe? Answer, the fortress of Bastille stood as the symbol of royal despotism and served as the prison. On 14th July 1789, a violent mob attacked it and demolished it to the ground, killed the governor, the officials and the soldiers. It marked the end of the royal despotism in France, system of feudalism, and brought about the sense of freedom not only in France but all over the world. Next question. What was meant by the divine origin of kingship? Answer. The kings of France considered themselves to be the representatives of God on the earth. They did not feel that they were answerable to the people for their actions. This belief was known as the divine right of kingship. Question number 5. Who were the bourgeois? The bourgeois in France were the middle class. They belonged to the Third Estate. They lived in towns and earned their living by some kind of mental skill. The bourgeois included teachers, doctors, lawyers, businessmen, traders, etc. And the last question, what was the reign of terror? Answer, the National Convention was faced with internal revolts as well as foreign attacks. In order to keep the spirit and principles of the French Revolution intact, the National Convention entrusted supreme power of France to the Committee of Public Safety. The violent and scary measures this Committee of Public Safety had resorted to for a year came to be known as the Reign of Terror. Carnot, Robespierre, Saint Just were the notable Jacobin leaders of the Reign of Terror, which came to an end with the execution of Robespierre. Next, we move on to the Industrial Revolution chapter. The first short answer type question from the Industrial Revolution is, why could the countries of Europe no longer remain content with agriculture and cottage industries anymore? Answer: England, being the home of the Industrial Revolution, became the supplier of necessary goods for daily use of the continental Europe by the 19th century. The Napoleonic Wars and continental system posed danger of depending on England for necessary goods. So, after the fall of Napoleon, the European nations started their own industrialization. Second question, how did Napoleon encourage industrialization in France? Now, Napoleon had made sincere efforts to build the industries in France. He had set up the Bank of France in order to give loans to the industries, and also he had set up the technical schools and arranged for advanced government loans to the manufacturers. Next question, what was a ghetto? A ghetto was the part of the city where members of the minority community lived due to socio-economic pressures. Ghetto developed during the Industrial Revolution when towns were set up around the factories. The people lived in congested areas with their families in a very unhygienic condition. Question number 4. What was the factory system? Answer. Due to the Industrial Revolution, old method of small handmade production was replaced by machine-made production. The workers assembled in a factory to produce huge quantity of goods using machines. The factory system developed the emergence of division of labor and mass production. Next question, how was the industrialization in France different from that in England? Answer, the industrialization in France was different from that in England, as in France, industrialization was developed by the government, while in England, it had been the initiatives of the capitalist class. Question number 6. What was the major source of weakness in Russian industrialization? Now, the Russian industrialization happened mostly due to the foreign capital investment. So, the Russian had to take a huge quantity of loan from the foreigners for their industrial development of their industries. So, that was a major setback for the Russian economy. So, that was the weakness of the Russian industrialization, that it had to depend upon the foreign capital. Next question, why did the women work in the mills? So they had basically two main aims for working in the mills. Mill owners wanted more productivity, so they used to engage the women in their industries, mostly in the textile industries, as the women were very much efficient in stitching and sewing. So they engaged the women, and on the women's part, they engage themselves in the factories because of mostly two reasons. First, they wanted to earn their own earnings, money, and secondly, they wanted to help their families and save for their future life. So these were the reasons that the women engaged themselves in the factories. Question number 8. How was Marxism different from early socialism? Answer, you will write that early socialism believed in slow and peaceful development towards establishing ideal conditions for workers, but Marx demanded a violent upsurge of workers to attain their own welfare by capturing political power. And secondly, early socialists favored working for the welfare of workers, remaining within the framework of capitalism, while Marx predicted complete destruction of the capitalist system. Question number 9. How did the Industrial Revolution result in colonial expansion? You will write the answer. The industrialized European countries needed new markets for selling their produced goods. So they looked for market overseas in Asia and Africa where industrialization had not taken place. Besides, they also needed raw materials at cheaper rates for their industries. This led to the growth of colonial expansionism of the European powers. Question number 10. What were the importances of the opening of Suez Canal? Answer. The Suez Canal was completed in 1869. The opening of the Suez Canal made carrying goods between East and West easier and faster. It also encouraged the European nations to search for colonies in late 19th century in the continents of Asia and Africa. Question number 11. Why was India called as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire? Answer. India was a source of various kinds of raw materials at a cheap rate for the British industries. Moreover, they found India a beautiful place to visit with its exquisite scenic beauty and historical sites. Therefore, the British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli described India as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Question number 12. Mention any two economic aspects of colonial expansion. 2 points you will write that selling of surplus goods produced in overseas markets, export surplus capital to less industrialized nations for more profit, and need for raw materials at the cheap rate. Question number 13. What does the term white man's burden mean? Answer you will write. Rudyard Kipling of England was in favor of the theory that the white people should discharge their responsibility of civilizing the backward people of the world. This is known as the white man's burden. Question number 14. What was the open door policy? Answer. Between 1894 and 98, most of the economically important regions of China came under the control of the foreign powers. USA, in order to retain its trade relation with China, suggested the policy of open door, according to which all countries would have equal rights to trade anywhere in China. Question number 15. What was the July crisis or Sarajevo incident? Answer. On 28th June 1914, at Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia, the Austrian Crown Prince Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife Sofia were killed by a member of Serbian terrorist group Black Hand. On 28th July, Austria served an ultimatum to Serbia demanding retribution. Serbia accepted most of the terms except the one which would cost its independence. Austria-Hungary, supported by Germany, declared war on 28 July 1914 against Serbia, officially beginning the First World War. What was the Paris Commune? Answer. The Paris Commune was a revolutionary government in Paris which was formed in 1871 when the city was seized by the Germans after the defeat of France in the Battle of Sedan. Next question. What was the Schlieffen Plan? At the start of the First World War, the German army operated according to the Schlieffen Plan, which intended to ensure German victory over Franco-Russian alliance by holding up Russian advance towards the west. Now, Germany did not want France to get help from Russia. So, she held the Russian advance in the western part that through the Schlieffen line border. So that is the Schlieffen Plan. And the last question, what was the Moroccan or Agadir crisis? Answer, German interference in Morocco continued and escalated when a German gunboat Panther appeared at the port of Agadir, Morocco in 1911. It was to establish German claim over Morocco, challenging the French control. However, Germany withdrew from Morocco under international pressure and negotiated with France. The Morocco or Agadir crisis proved that Europe was politically destabilized prior to the First World War. Now we move on to the next lesson, chapter 5, Europe in the 20th century. The first short answer type question is, what were the concessions granted by Tsar Nicholas II after the revolution of 1905? You will write from the question, the concessions granted by Tsar Nicholas II after the revolution of 1905 were holding of elections to the Legislative Assembly by legalizing the political parties and introducing some fundamental laws. Next question, who were Narodniks or what was the Narodnik movement? Narodniks were the populists who believed peasantry to be the leading force in liberation struggle in Russia. During the 19th century, a Narodnik was the one who sought to help peasantry, taking the path to revolutionary struggle and abandoning happy life. Their movement in the 60s of 19th century was Narodnik movement. They were responsible for the assassination of the Tsar Alexander II. Next question. Mention any two social causes for the Russian Revolution. You can write the poor living conditions of the serfs under the landlords and the tremendous increase of population over the land, leading to the shortage of land for cultivation. Next question. Why is the March Revolution also known as the February Revolution? Answer, the old Russian calendar differed 13 days from the common calendar. So, the Russian Revolution of 12th March took place on 28th February as per the Russian calendar. Hence, the March Revolution is also known as the February Revolution. Question number 5. What was the NEP on the new economic policy? Answer. During the days of the Civil War, the Bolshevik government introduced war communism to keep state control over every aspect of economy in Russia. The impact of the war communism was disastrous on Russian economy. In order to overcome this problem, Lenin introduced NEP, shifting to private ownership in land and industry from the state control. Question number 6. Mention the economic effects of the Russian Revolution. The economic effects of the Russian Revolution were introduction of economic planning to develop the industries, and abolition of private property and motive of profit for production. Question number 7. Write a few terms of the 14 points. You will have to write who had introduced the 14 points when, and any 4 points from the 14 points, that Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Question number 8. What was the Weimar Republic? The abdiction of the German Emperor Kaiser William II after the end of the First World War, Germany was declared a republic. The Republican government was set up by Ebert, which drew out a new constitution and started functioning from the small town Weimar, as the situation in Berlin was chaotic. This republic came to be known as the Weimar Republic. Next question. How did the terms of the Treaty of Versailles affect the German economy? Answer that the terms of the Treaty of Versailles were harsh and insulting. It led to the decrease in the value of money drastically, and which led the people of Germany to resort to the ancient barter system of exchange. The German currency mark had absolutely no value. The shopkeepers refused to take them. So the people were forced to go back to the ancient custom of barter system, exchanging of goods in place of money. And also the rise in unemployment and poverty with the destruction of industries due to the lack of the raw materials. What was the Wall Street crash, or why is the Wall Street crash also termed as the Black Thursday? So answer, during the First World War, the US economy witnessed an enormous boom. But ever since the end of the First World War, economic problems surfaced which were overlooked by the Americans, who falsely believed in their economic prosperity. When the share market crashed on 24th October 1929, the whole economy of the world also crashed with it, leading to the Great Economic Depression. As 24th October was a Thursday, it came to be known as the Black Thursday, and the crash was named Wall Street crash, for Wall Street is the principal location of the American share market. Next question. What was the Hoover moratorium? Answer. It was evident by 1931 that there would be no quick recovery from the Great Economic Depression. So, President Hoover of USA urged the European countries to accept a moratorium on all war debt and reparation to the defeated powers for 1 year. This was known as the over moratorium. Moratorium means postponement. So President Hoover of USA, he had proposed for the postponement of the war debt for 1 year because there was a great economic crisis going on. Question number 12. How did the Great Depression affect the world? Now, you will have to mention the economic distress, which in turn led to the rise of dictatorship in various countries, especially in Germany and Italy, resulting in the Second World War. Next question. Why did the Germans call the Treaty of Versailles as a dictated peace? Very easy. You will have to write the terms were humiliating. The German leaders were not consulted or discussed about the terms and were forced to sign practically on the gunpoint. So that is why the Germans considered the Treaty of Versailles as a dictated peace. Question number 14. How did Mussolini want to make Italy great, respected and feared? Basically by three methods. One was to achieve military status by building its military power. Next, by diplomacy if needed, by talking mutual discussions. And the third one was by going to direct war. So these were the three methods with the implementation of which Mussolini wanted Italy to be the great, respected and feared country. Question number 15. What was the Herrenbock theory? It was the belief of the master race in Germans. They believed that they were the direct descendants of the Aryan race, having pure blood and superior to all. So that was the Herrenbock theory. Question number 16. What do you understand by fascism? Answer. Fascism is a term derived from Latin fascio, meaning bundle, which meant authority in ancient Rome. The beliefs and political system of Mussolini came to be known as fascism. It generated military aggression and extreme nationalism. And the last question, mention the significances of the Spanish Civil War. Answer. Hitler found an ally or friend in General Franco. Second, the Spanish Civil War proved the victory of fascism, and Germany got a chance to test its newly devised weapons and war planes. So, children, this was the discussion on your history second unit worksheet. I suggest that you all copy down the questions, follow the discussions and write down the answers and prepare for your upcoming test.